Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to episode 171 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. Glad to have you with us. Hope you're having a good start to the month of November. I don't know about you, but it felt like October just flew by. Of course, in bar exam years and time frames, October is a big results month, and so there was a lot of activity and a lot going on. We're going to talk about some of that today. But our primary focus today is going to be an interview with a successful New York bar taker. That means the uniform bar exam. We're going to be talking to a young man, Andrew DeMasters, who had previously taken the exam a couple of times using what I call the big box bar reviews, and he had not been successful. Then he came to us. He used some of the tools that we provided in terms of writing and photo reading, which you'll hear about, and he raised his score from 260 to 292. A 32-point increase. It is an amazing story. I really am excited to share that with you today. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Now, if this is your first time on the podcast with us, welcome. We're really glad you're here. We know you've got a limited amount of time and resources, and so we appreciate you sharing a bit of that and a bit of your day with us. You can receive these podcasts in a couple of different ways. You can get them on Apple iTunes or iHeartRadio if you want to listen to them. If you prefer to watch, we have the entire episode on video, and all you need to do is go to celebrationbarreview.com/171. That's the episode number, so 171, and you can watch this entire episode on video. And most of our episodes for the past probably 3 or 4 months now are on video just by putting in the episode number, so you can check that out. We also have an archive of all of our episodes from the very beginning on our website. If you go to celebrationbarreview.com, just look for the link at the top that says podcasts, and you'll find the links or the original recordings and the show notes for all of our episodes. So I hope you'll check that out. I also want to invite all of you who are taking the bar exam in 2018 to join me for a very special live webinar. This is called How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. It's the powerful, proven way to pass. We're going to share with you step by step what you need to do to be successful on the bar. We're going to supplement that with case studies and stories and lots of information. It's been an extraordinarily successful webinar for people to get them started on the right foot, and it's completely free. We'll be offering it twice this week on Thursday, November 9th, and again on Monday, November 13th. The time for the webinar is 7 p.m. Eastern, that's 4 p.m. Pacific time, and it's completely free, as I said. All you have to do is click on our website and reserve your spot. If you go to celebrationbarreview.com, you'll see a button right at the top there. Just click on that. And if you're watching this podcast on video, just scroll down the page and you'll see the link right there. Then select the date that works best for you, and we'll see you for this for this webinar. And I think you're going to really find it helpful, and I hope you'll join us for that. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast over the last few weeks, you know that we announced recently a live 2-day photo reading boot camp here in Celebration, Florida. I'm going to be joined by one of the leading experts in teaching photo reading, Millicent St. Clair, and we're really excited about this boot camp. In fact, part of the reason I'm so excited is that we have sold all of the spots that we initially had reserved for the space and for the event. We've expanded the room just a bit, and so now we're offering a few additional spots. If you want information about the boot camp, just go to celebrationbarreview.com/bootcamp. You can find out all about it. It's a 2-day immersive course to teach you how to be able to read faster, read with greater comprehension, and then we're going to apply it to your bar studies. And by doing that, what we're going to do is help you to actually get through all of your reading, to be able to recall the information more effectively. We'll be writing essays and taking multiple choice tests during the workshop. Now, because we're using our proprietary materials, you must be a registered Celebration Bar Review student to participate. And of course, you had to have purchased the photo reading course, but we've got all the links for you at that bootcamp page. So check it out. There's still a few spots left since we expanded the size of the room. I hate to see you miss out, but Celebration is an amazing place, particularly in the winter and at Christmas time. We're staying at and working at a lovely hotel called the Bohemian, and I think it's going to be a great experience. So excited to meet and see all of you who have already registered registered for that December 2nd and 3rd. And then finally, I just want to remind everybody that on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're doing Facebook Live presentations on our Facebook page for Celebration Bar Review. So if you are on Facebook, check out Celebration Bar Review's page, like us, and you'll be notified automatically of these Facebook Live opportunities. We're trying to do them now Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's a good opportunity to just interact and engage with me. I've usually got a message or an interview or some information for you, and I hope you'll find that to be useful. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot that's been happening in terms of the bar as well. I wanted to talk about one set of results that came in this week. Actually, in the week before this episode will actually appear, two sets of results, big states released, Georgia and Texas. Now, as I'm recording today, we do not have the Texas statistics. I can tell you anecdotally, our students did quite well. I feel really good about the results. If that is representative, and usually we're better than the state average. So I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty good pass rate. I'm guessing in the high 70% overall in Texas. That's my guess. Georgia has released their results, and again, we did much better than the state average, but the good news in Georgia, following most of the country, is that their bar results did go up in July of 2017 to 66.9% of all bar takers passing. That's a pretty good number. It's up from 65% that passed in July 2016. So the direction in Georgia is moving in the right direction. I thought that was good news. Over 76% of first-time takers passed in Georgia. That's not really a big surprise, but it's up from 72% a year ago. Now, one thing to keep in mind about bar results generally is that the results you see in February are always much, much lower than the results you see in July because of the higher number of first-time bar takers. And Georgia's really definitely impacted by this. The number of repeat bar takers in July 2016 was very large. It was 283. I don't know that I've got that number specifically for July 2017, but I think it's a smaller number. I know it's a smaller number, I just don't know the exact number. Smaller number of retakers. Now, the Georgia bar examiners are claiming that that's because they've done such a great job of going out to the law schools and being wonderful and kind and great, and you can believe that if you want. I think the reality is a lot of people just gave up. Without those repeat bar takers in the mix, I think what we're seeing is that there were fewer repeat bar takers, and therefore the rates went up. Now, I can tell you that our repeat bar takers that came to us did very well. We've got interviews with some of them planned for you that we'll be sharing on the podcast in the near future. And so we're excited about that, and we're thrilled for everybody that did pass. If you were one of the people that took the Georgia bar and you didn't pass, I hope you'll check us out and find out what we can do to help you, because we're pretty confident that we can help you get through this test, but it is a tough test in Georgia. And, I know it's really scary to people to look at those February numbers and think, oh my gosh, they're going to go from this, 76% pass rate for everybody or 67% for overall takers back down probably under 50%. Don't let that throw you. The test is not harder. It's just the makeup of the people that are taking the exam. So, Georgia remains one of the tough exams in the country. Now, as I say, we don't have Texas numbers. They released just a few days ago, and probably about the time we're releasing this podcast, they will release their statistics. So I'll catch you up on those on our next episode. Now, that remains one state left to give results from July 2017, and that's California. Those are due out on November 17th, and obviously that's a big one. We'll share a lot of information there as soon as we get it, and we wish you well. We know for Cal bar takers it's just excruciating to keep waiting and waiting and waiting, particularly now that you know that the cut score is not changing. It will be 1440. I would say that my unfortunate prediction is that we will see a continued drop in the pass rates in California, that they will actually run counter to the trend in other states. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting time and interesting numbers. So that's what's going on right now. There's been a lot. It's been a busy week, and more still to come. But now I want to jump to today's interview. I think you're going to really enjoy hearing from Andrew. He's got a wonderful story, and he's a terrific young man. So let's jump into today's interview with Andrew DeMasters. Well, Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hanging Out with a Successful Bar Exam Taker, and boy, this is going to be fun. I have a story and a guy to share with you today, Andrew DeMasters. Wonderful story, incredible success on the New York UBE bar exam. Welcome, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Jackson. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, just before we went live, you were telling me that the feeling on Monday was like nearly indescribable. So now I'm going to ask you to describe it.
Sure. So I'll kind of lead up to the moments of it, but I sat down after a long day on the couch. I looked at my phone, and I got an email notification. It said from administration at the New York Board of Law Examiners, July 2017 results. All my nerves pinched up, felt butterflies in my stomach, got out the laptop, turned off everything else that was on Wi-Fi, connected, opened up the email account. In New York, they have a PDF attachment, so I sat next to my parents. I had my dad open up that PDF attachment with me, and the first word I saw on the email, notice of certification. I was so thrilled and excited and pumped, and I just can't describe it. I started crying, excitement. I jumped up, big hugs, ran up and down the stairs. I called everybody I knew.
Folks, this is 12:01 a.m., so just to be clear, it's not like the middle of the afternoon, but okay, yeah, go ahead.
And it was so much excitement. In fact, I couldn't fall asleep that evening. It was overwhelming to know that I had finally overcome this hurdle that I had been going through.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about your story and why this was a hurdle for you. But I also want to give people, and we'll backtrack, but I want to give people kind of the real clincher in all of this. You've taken the New York UBE bar exam previously, right?
Yeah.
And what was your previous high score on the exam before this time?
Yeah, so I previously sat for the exam twice, and my last highest score prior to July was a 260. Okay. That was from the February administration.
Okay, and you need 266 to pass. And on this administration in July 2017, what was your score, Andrew?
My overall score was a 292.
Hello, that's, I don't know about my math, I think that's 32-point improvement.
It was, and when I saw the number after finally reading the letter, I emailed you immediately, and it was still a shock to me that on a retake that I not only improved my score to pass, but that I was able to pull it up over 30 points.
Yeah,
that's just incredible.
Yeah, that is a massive, massive increase. I'm surprised you haven't gotten a phone call from the bar examiners asking what you did, because that usually unnerves them when they see jumps like that. So we're now going to unpack how you got a 32-point increase in one administration of the exam, okay? So let's go back, and why don't you sort of tell people a little bit about your background and how it was that you came to be taking the New York bar exam in the first place.
Sure. So I went to Queens College, and my major was political science and sociology, and I really wanted to start a career in public service. Done some internships with local politicians, community groups. I was very active as a student leader on campus, and I pretty much decided, the junior into senior year of college that I wanted to attend law school. So I studied for the LSAT, did really well, and I decided that instead of starting law school immediately, I should get a little more experience under my belt and work in county government. So I wound up working for local county government for about 8 months. Great experience. And then in about August of 2013, I went full-time to University at Buffalo School of Law. And I did that pretty much until last year when I graduated. And just like every law school graduate, I sat for the first administration right out of law school. And, I think one thing that I knew is I felt like I wasn't as prepared as I should have been the very first time I took. And this is part of the conversation that I've had with Jackson. I had used a major bar company, and I pretty much just was using the techniques they taught me, trying to memorize all this information, try to regurgitate it, and fingers crossed, go in, somehow pass. I didn't. I fell a little short, and heading into the next administration, I saw that my weak area was writing. So I decided to use the same company, work with a writing tutor who was an attorney, and I thought maybe that would improve my writing score so I could pass. And unfortunately, that did not work either. Still had a 260, a few points shy of New York. And that's when I decided to call Jackson. I had done my research, my homework. Definitely watched inspirational videos like this, and it really gave me a new perspective, a new hope. And pretty much from that point on, I worked very closely with your company, Jackson, and it was honestly one of the best decisions I made.
Well, thank you. You took our personal coaching program, which meant that you and I were talking about your writing, conferencing, looking at your work, and engaged there. You also used a couple of the tools that we offer, most notably the photo reading course, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But what was the difference when you started writing in our course? What was different about our writing approach than what you had been doing previously?
Yeah, so I noticed a couple of big differences. When I came to you and I started taking Celebration, I was so trained with the Iraq style. In fact, everything that I knew and was taught was Iraq. That's just the way I was thinking about the world, and that's the way I wrote on the previous exams. So when we started, and I submitted the first essay to you, I remember you were like, "Oh, this is you've got to learn a new writing style, a new approach." And I think we had a conversation that it wasn't that I didn't know what to write for the essays, is that it wasn't in the format that the examiners were looking for, and we needed to really clear it up. So working with you in the FLA style, it really helped to bring my writing together, make it more cohesive, consistent, to the point, and really I didn't have to think so much about writing these essays. It sort of just flowed naturally from your subconscious. When you're thinking about the topic, it just sort of comes to you, and you're able to lay it out a lot easier than the Iraq. The Iraq process, I remember when I was using it on the exams, it was very organic. You had to think consciously about, all right, what's the rule? Do I have enough rules here? Did I incorporate enough facts with that rule? And did I somehow reach the right conclusion? What I noticed with FLA is it really didn't matter if I was able to write the rule verbatim. You kind of go with the flow. You go with a rule that sort of makes sense logically to support somebody's argument. And I think taking that approach heading into this administration, I was able to really stay on point, even if I felt that I didn't know the rule per se, off the top of your head. You're able to stick with the style, present it in a way that the examiners are looking for it, and get those points that you needed, and it worked.
Yeah,
on this test.
Okay, so it's a completely different approach, and one thing that I thought was really wonderful was how open you were to this new style and new approach. And early on in the process, we introduced you to this idea of photo reading. Now, I'd love to have you describe to our audience how you understand photo reading and how it worked for you, because I know it's something that we talked about with other people in these interviews, and I'm asked about all the time, but they get tired of hearing me explain it. So why don't you explain photo reading and then how you used it as you were studying?
Yeah, absolutely. So photo reading for me may have single-handedly been one of the best things I did with you, besides changing my writing approach.
Yeah.
When I was studying for the bar on the previous administrations, I would simply just try to read left to right. I would try to remember as much information as I could, and somehow let that translate in the multiple choice section. With photo reading, I sort of threw everything that I knew about reading out the window.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started with it, I was a little skeptical. It's like, oh, you've got to flip through these pages, and don't worry about it. Don't worry about what you're looking at. It will just come to you. And I thought it was really weird. I thought it was like a magic trick or something. But sort of what I've learned using that process is that it really it tricks your brain into retaining the critical information into your subconscious. And the whole purpose of it is that when you take that exam and you sit through those multiple choice and you use the technique that you've taught, you know the answer, but you don't necessarily need to know why you know the answer, but you know that that's the answer.
Yeah.
And so photo reading really puts it right there. It allows you a mixture of focusing, retaining the information intuitively, and it does it in a relaxing state. You're sort of meditating a little bit, but your mind is absorbing this information. No, it sounds silly, but it worked for me. I mean, throughout the study, what I was doing is that before any multiple choice section or any essay, I would go back and I would photo read that entire area of law.
How long did that take you to photo read an outline?
Generally, it would take me roughly about 3 to 4 minutes. I would, you get used.
I want you to say that. I want you to say that again so people get it. How long did it take you?
Yeah, about 3 to 4 minutes in total. You're really only supposed to spend about 2 to 3 seconds on each page. Every chapter that we study ranges somewhere between 50 to 100 pages or so. And what's nice about photo reading is that once you're done, you can go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And I found that really the more times I photo read, my scores through the multiple choice and when I was writing with you just went up. They went from, so-so essays to, wow, Andrew, this was maybe by far the best essay you've submitted. And multiple choice scores that were, this is just a 125 or a 130 to, wow, Andrew, that you hit a 150. Wow, you hit a 155, 160, even on the hardest exams, the February 91.
Right. Well, let's talk about the multiple choice and how you used photo reading in answering questions. Now, I presume that what you've done in the past, before all of this, is that you read a question and then you tried to analyze it, think about elements and rules, eliminate wrong answer choices. Is that roughly accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I read the question and you just try to eliminate those other choices.
Right. Okay. So now, after photo reading, did you approach the questions differently?
Much differently. I would read the question. I would think about what the answer could be. What are they asking? I would take what I thought would be the answer, sort of close your eyes for a second, and then glimpse down at those answer choices, and lo and behold, one of those answer choices was what I thought the answer would be. And instead of, second guessing yourself when you're reading the question consciously, I stuck with it. Throughout that whole exam, I stuck with my gut choice. Whatever I thought was the answer, I picked it. Sort of came to your mind, boom, lock it in, next question, move on. And what I found is not only did that help my accuracy, but it helped my timing getting through the entire exam. I was able to get through all of the multiple choice in both sections with about 32 minutes left to go back and review.
Wow.
That's great. It was unheard of, because in the last administration, I remember, I was down to like the final 2 questions with maybe 5 or 6 minutes to go in the session.
Yeah.
So just to show you that not only does it improve the accuracy, it improves the timing and the pacing through the exam.
That's awesome. So I suppose it would be safe to say that if somebody came to you and said, should I use photo reading to study for the bar, what would your answer to them be?
100%. Absolutely. Guaranteed. Yeah. Just do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would add to it is, just believe in the process. I found that, not only taking photo reading and working with you and celebration through this course, but staying positive and really believing that the entire process will work, that the course outline, that using a new technique like photo reading would really improve my score. And lo and behold, it did. And it not only improved it, it shot it up from way back where it was.
Yeah, 32-point increase on the overall score. I mean, yeah. I'm not good enough at math to know what a percentage increase it is, but it was big. So, I think you are a living testimony to how big a difference this can make. Now, you worked hard. You did everything we asked you to do. You were diligent about your study. You also ran, I think, a couple of marathons during the time you were studying. Is that right?
Yeah. So part of the bar prep, I was also an active runner and a cyclist. I do now. I'm a certified spin instructor, so I teach spin. But as I was studying the bar, I was running half marathons, 5K races, some 10K races, and it's really healthy too. I remember watching the video that you made about making sure that you get the proper amount of exercise as you're studying. And I can't agree more. I really think that also was a very helpful factor, not only to provide you with a positive outlook, but an outlet to let out all that stress, to let out anything, all those tensions that you have, those nerves about sitting for the exam, and it really sort of came together.
Yeah.
So,
I want to talk about another thing that we did to kind of help you with that, because when you first came to me, you were pretty beat up. You were obviously hardworking, smart guy, ambitious, intelligent, but really beat up and beat down. And so one of the first pieces of advice I think that I gave you was we looked at your scores from the first couple of times you'd taken it and saw that you had the 260, which for those that aren't aware, with the Uniform Bar Exam, there's a range and different jurisdictions give the same test, but they have different passing scores. So New York is near the top of the list with a high score, 266. But there are a few jurisdictions that would accept a 260 on this exam. And so one of my first pieces of advice to you was find one of those jurisdictions that interests you and wave in with your 260. And you did that. You waved into Minnesota, correct?
That's right. Yep.
So you're a member of the Minnesota bar, and you're going to be a member of the New York bar now. But there was a reason for doing it. You recall, I'm sure, why we talked about why it was important for you to do that. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. I remember speaking to you about it, and at first I was a little skeptical. I said, why am I going to apply to be an attorney in another state? And I remember that you said, look, it's not about just being a member of the bar of another state. It's about reaffirming that you already are an attorney, that you are counselor at law, that you were successful on your previous administration, even though New York may not have seen it, but you are diligent enough that another state recognizes your efforts. And I think, applying to Minnesota, waiting through that process, and getting the letter back after I sat for July was really helpful. There's no feeling like it. Wherever you're admitted as an attorney, the privilege to go up to that state Supreme Court, to take an attorney oath, to meet a justice of the court, to everything. It's just a wonderful feeling to be a member of any state bar. And now, very happy with Jackson. I'll be a multi-jurisdictional attorney, but it's a wonderful feeling, and it's an accomplishment.
Yeah, and I think it's really a great strategy. And I wanted to sort of illuminate this because I'm getting this question a lot with the UBE. There will be people who will miss the passing score in the state that they're sitting for, but still have a high enough score to be admitted somewhere. And I think it's really a good strategy emotionally, as Andrew's saying, to just get yourself into a bar, have that experience, and know that when you go to take the exam, because you knew this before you went to sit for the July exam in New York, you're already barred. And it takes a lot of pressure off, doesn't it, at that point?
It does, because, when you're sitting in that room and the nerves start to take over, the anxiety starts to take over, you quickly look around and you remind yourself, you say, hey, I have one step up on most of the people here. I've applied to this state that's going to recognize me as an attorney. Yeah. Now, all I need to do is, pull a few points up here, and I'll be able to practice in this state too. It's just a feeling because it helps to calm your nerves, and it gives you that confidence you need as you're writing through those essays, as you're reading through the MPT and those multiple choice. You could just keep coming back to it and say, look, I'm an attorney. I'm putting the information the way it needs to be. It's all that matters.
Yeah.
And you out with even more confidence than you walked in with. That's the way I did it. I remember walking in, walking out, and I came back to that thought throughout the exam. I said, look, I believe in my studies. I know I'm going to be admitted somewhere. My future is bright. Just got to do what I need to do.
Yeah, your future is bright, Andrew. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think you're going to be one of those people that we're going to look at and say, oh, I knew Andrew back when. A spin instructor. He's member of 2 bars. He's, worked in government. He runs, all these races and does, I mean, really? Are you kidding? And he likes coffee. So, that's the big plus for me. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so pleased for you. We talk about people feeling like they get their life back when this is all over. Can you talk a little bit about that? What's the sense that you've got now, just a few days after hearing that you've passed the bar? Is there a sense of relief that now this is over, you get this part of your life back?
Absolutely. 110%. I can't agree more with you. I think when you get your life back, to me, what that means is that you no longer have the stress or the anxiety of this exam looming over your head. You no longer have to feel like you don't belong with your classmates that were successful on the exam prior to you. You no longer have that feeling of sort of being in the legal profession but not quite in the legal profession. Mm-hmm. You don't have that feeling anymore of contacting other attorneys for advice or joining professional associations or even being asked, are you an attorney? Did you pass the bar? All of these questions, concerns, issues are all put to rest. And I remember the first 2 to 3 days after passing the exam, I reconnected with some of my law school faculty, some friends that I hadn't talked to in quite some time, members of my own organization. I'm part of Kiwanis International, mm-hmm. But tons of attorneys and judges. People came forward, say, "Wow, congratulations! That's amazing news." You really get all that support back that you may not have had through bar prep, through times of your own self-doubt, and you now have the ability to sort of go places where you couldn't go, maybe where the door was closed.
Yeah, and by the way, that 292 score, that opens a lot of doors, my friend. That's not just barely passing the test or getting over the hurdle. That is blowing the doors off of it. There are not many people. I'm going to have to try and figure out where that puts you statistically, but it is a huge, huge score. And when you think about the jump, it makes it even more extraordinary and exciting. But I feel like, you're such a great example of somebody who just gets it all back, and sort of, now you got your mojo, right? It's like, okay, I can do this. I've done this part. So I hope you'll check back in with us periodically. I'd love to hear what's going on with your legal career and all the good stuff you're doing. I know that you've been an active participant in our private Facebook group for our existing students, and maybe we could just say a couple words about what that experience was like for you. Was it helpful as you were going through the course?
Yeah. I found that it was very helpful. What I like most about Celebration, unlike a lot of the big bar companies, is that source on Facebook. Is that source of a community that really supports your journey and is there to hear and answer any concern that you have. I reached out to a few successful examiners from the past, and I asked about some of the techniques. Got back to me very quickly. I remember times I had questions. I posted on the Extra Miles group, and people would write back. And that's I feel like what you need on this study journey is that you need to realize that you're not just in it when you feel down, but that you have other people that you could sort of lean on their shoulders. The thing that I like most now about the community is the ability to give back. And in the days after my successful score, I've tried to put some positive quotes.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty awesome, isn't it? I mean, it's like, woo.
I really just want. I feel like Celebration and Jackson and everyone from the group, friends, they were there so much, and it's a wonderful feeling to give back to those who are going through the same thing that you went through.
Yeah, and we appreciate it, and I know our current students appreciate it already. So that's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, do you have any sort of final words of advice or encouragement for people that are watching? I'm sure we've got some folks that are watching today who probably have failed their bar, whether it's the New York or the UBE or another bar exam, who might be saying, well, now what do I do? What would you say to them at this point?
Sure. So a few things. Number one, it's okay that you may not have been successful, but remember to move forward, get back up, and don't let this exam define you. The way you're defined is by getting back up and passing that exam. That's the way you're going to be defined and remembered. So stay positive. I highly recommend working with Jackson and Celebration. Just a world of a difference compared to other techniques that I took in the past that really do work. Anyone that's skeptical of it, I'd be happy to talk to. It just works. It's hands down. I mean, I'm not making it up. It just does. And just remember that other people went through it too. They're not going to ask you how many times you sat for the bar exam. At the end of the day, when you have a client in your office, they're going to say, oh, when were you barred?
Yeah.
That's it. Or are you an attorney?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about how many attempts you took. No. So the bottom line is get back up, do it, stay positive, stick with the flow, and you too can be successful.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Andrew. You are a success in every measure of the word. Your success as a human being, a success as a law student. Now you're going to be, I think, very successful as a member of the bar in both states and maybe more. Who knows? But look forward to staying in touch with you. I so much appreciate you sharing your story, sharing your scores and the process and the experience. I know that that's going to really inspire and encourage a whole lot of people, and we're so grateful for that, and certainly appreciative of you being on our private Facebook group and continuing to encourage and motivate our existing students. So I just want to thank you for being with us today. To our audience, thanks for being with us. These are so much fun for me to do. This is like the highlight of my days when I get to talk to people like Andrew, and so we're just grateful, as always, to be able to share these stories. So thanks to all of you. Andrew, thank you. Best wishes, and we'll sign off for today. Isn't that a terrific story? I'm so thrilled. And his success is just remarkable. But you know, we get stories like that all the time here. And if you'd like to be one of those stories, I hope you'll join us. Reminder that we've got a free webinar to explain how to make the next bar exam your last bar exam, coming up on Thursday, November 9th, and again Monday, November 13th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Be sure to register for that either here on the video page or by going to our homepage and clicking. It's totally free, and we'd love to see you there. Also, just a reminder, our boot camp is December 2nd and 3rd. Make sure you check that out. It's going to be a great experience, a live immersive experience. Go to celebrationbarreview.com/bootcamp, and we'll see you there. Well, as you can tell, I'm losing my voice. I'm so excited. So I think I'm going to stop here. Have a great week. I hope everything goes well. Congratulations to everyone who's just passed their bar exams. If you're not one of the people that passed, keep your head up. It's possible to be successful on the test, and we're excited to have the opportunity to show you exactly how to do that. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.